Lazy Bear Games has unfortunately become one of those developers who every time I see a new game come from them, I have to take their titles with a massive grain of salt. The developer is known for taking grinding based designs and putting a very gray coat of paint on them, but for some reason they still are having trouble understanding the finer points of the designs. Their biggest hit was the game Punch Club, which was kind of like a take on all the 80s action movies with a simulation of combat. And it's the one that they're most known for in terms of popularity, but it still suffered a lot in grind. Their previous game, Graveyard Keeper, was their attempt at taking on the design of Stardew Valley, and ran into similar issues. And now we're here with Swag and Sorcery, which is their take on the fantasy shop or weapon shop kind of simulator. Probably the biggest or the most popular examples would be something like Weapon Shop Fantasy or Dragon Cliff. And once again, the developer has shown that they understand how to make grind, but they don't understand how to make grinding fun. So, the basic gameplay loop is the same as with those games. You are managing this town, and it's your mission to build things up, go on missions, and get more and more gear built to sell, as well as to complete a variety of quests. The core gameplay loop is split into two systems. You have the combat that you're seeing right now on screen, and you have very little interaction. At most, you can cast spells using mana that you see in the upper right, but this is a cost that must be recovered by, well, grinding resources to then recover it. As you send characters out into the field, each field has a set type of enemies who can show up along with elite variations, resource nodes that they will gather, and at the end, if you complete the area enough times, you'll be able to take on the boss encounter for a chance at rare resources and loot. The next gameplay loop in Swag and Sorcery is that you send characters to the various buildings in town in order to construct either resources that can be used in creating equipment or just the new equipment itself. And many of the advanced items will require 2 or more stages of production. So you may need to take a resource, refine it into a secondary resource to then use for that gear. Now, one thing that I do like about Swag and Sorcery is that the gear in the game is procedurally generated. There is a loot table, however, no matter how basic it is, that defines how gear gets built. When you construct gear, the game will generate it based on a variance or a variety of stats and attributes. Rare and higher class items may come with special modifiers, and also the highest class gear will also have its own unique modifier on top of that. Now, if the gear that you produce is not better for a character, then you can just simply sell it for gold. And gold is your main resource that is used to unlock new gear, upgrades the various structures along with more resources, and it's the only way to level up characters to make them stronger, which in turn allows them to equip higher quality gear. And if you haven't guessed by now, the grinding for gear is never ending. Now, with that said, as you play through, you may unlock new recipes, either by finding them in the field or by spending resources and gold to acquire them, which will also expand your options. But typically, the best gear for each character is going to be based on what their stats are. If you have a warrior who has high strength, then you want to give them gear that corresponds to that. Same goes for archers with agility, spellcasters with intelligence, and you get the point. And also, all the characters in Swag and Sorcery are hard-coded, and you unlock them by spending gold, with each new character getting progressively more expensive. And that by itself is a great gameplay loop. Again, it's worked with Weapon Shop Fantasy, it's worked with Dragon Cliff. But the problem that Swag and Sorcery has is that the grinding doesn't evolve. And this is what separates the worst examples of this kind of design from the best. And I won't go into more detail about that, but first a quick shout out to our Patreon backers and supporters. And now for a quick thank you to our Patreon supporters and current Game Wisdom sponsors. If you would like to continue this discussion on game design, be sure to check out our Discord channel, linked down below. Swag and Sorcery tries to take this grinding gameplay and deliver a very aesthetically pleasing version of it, but it fails to go further in terms of its design. And like I said with their previous games, it's kind of like a surface level or surface layer understanding, and doesn't work in the same capacity as the amazing Forager when it comes to presenting grind and elevating it. The problem this game has is that it is so adhered to this kind of grind that it feels more like a mobile game rather than a title that is intended to be fun and enjoyable by the player. There's a lot of little fun pain aspects in this game, from how much you have to hopefully get more resources and how it's random when it comes to having fixed quests. Right now, if you look on the left hand side, it shows I have a quest to kill 15 ghouls. The problem is that the rate at which ghouls show up is entirely RNG based, and I cannot make any progress until I complete that task. And each one of the game's main goals is like that. That it doesn't matter how great you're doing or how optimized you figured things out, if you can't complete the quest or the quest just won't complete for you, well, guess what? You're going to be wasting a lot of time. And the main quest is also the only way that you'll be able to move the story forward, unlock new areas, and more importantly, continue the progression of new gear. Now, when it comes to getting upgrades, like I said in the last part, the game features a very basic loot table. The problem, it's not a well-designed one. Frequently, I ran into cases where I would build the higher quality or the higher level variant of a piece of gear to only find that it was actually worse for the character than a piece I crafted earlier. Now, the shops themselves get a boost based on whoever is running them in terms of their respective attributes, but that still doesn't account for the fact that if I'm trying to craft a level 7 or a level 9 piece of armor, there is no reason why a level 2 or 3 gear should still be in higher quality. And I think what happened is that they're going for a very wide loot table, such as what happened with Diablo at its original launch, and unfortunately that doesn't work when you're trying to promote that kind of gear progression. Now, everything about the game, unfortunately, just is tied or reeks of this kind of mobile grind. There's one thing the game does that really annoys me, that for many of the higher quality gear, not only do you need resources to refine to a secondary resource, but that same resource may still be required, kind of requiring you to do a double grind for them. Now, earlier I mentioned that you can repeat areas and fill up a progress bar to unlock the boss fight. Well, here's a bit of a rub. If your party dies, you lose progress, and even if you retreat, you also lose progress. And that is something that we don't see in the genre because it's basically forcing the player to lose progress in a game that's already built around grinding. And like I said, there's just this whole sense that the developers understand what this design is, but they don't get what makes it enjoyable. And it hurts this game despite the high quality of the presentation. Now, with that said though, as with their previous games, I'm sure they're going to patch and either add in new content or rebalance things after launch. But as I said when I did my review of Graveyard Keeper, I can't give the developer brownie points for something that they may do in the future. For right now, Swag and Sorcery is a good looking game, but it just fails the grinding tests. And one thing that I didn't mention that I should bring up now is that there's this whole fashion show sub-game where you send characters to be rated on their gear, and I just found it to be a complete waste of time. Like, it has nothing to do with the other core gameplay loops, or the core gameplay loop of the game, and it takes your characters away from when they can actually be going out and getting you resources. And that's another big point, that because characters only level up by spending gold, it means that unless you are actively going out there, getting the resources you need to then create gear, you are wasting time. And that is a big difference compared to Weapon Shop Fantasy, where characters leveled up or gained stats doing anything in that game. And like I said, it just feels like I'm being led on an endless grind. And there are no, or at least from what I've seen, there are no ways to minimize or mitigate low-level grinding. If you bring in a new character, for instance, you must grind the lower-level areas to get the resources to produce the gear that they need, so they have a chance of actually contributing. Or you gotta hope that your current crop of people can just earn enough money that you can just level them up and bypass it. But like I said, it just feels like the game wants to just be all about grinding and not go further. And as a very funny part, I've been cutting the footage in and out for this piece, and unless you guys are really paying attention, you probably aren't noticing where I'm at progress-wise. And unfortunately, that's another point about this, that it's never ending. The scaling of the grind just keeps going up, which just slows down progress as you get further in. Once you get to probably Area 3, it's going to take a lot longer for you to get the resources that you're going to require to then refine into new gear. And I just didn't see the light at the end of the tunnel, unlike in games like Weapon Shop or Forger. But with that said, we're going to end things here for this piece. As I said, there is the very possibility that Swag and Sorcery will get rebalanced and be improved. But as with Graveyard Keeper, I can't, give the game credit for that. If you're looking for a very, graphically pleasing version of this design, then definitely check out Swag and Sorcery. But if you're looking for more of the gameplay depth, minus the high level of grind, I would wholeheartedly recommend Weapon Shop Fantasy and Dragoncliff in that regard. But thank you so much for watching this video. I do want to thank the developers for giving me a press key to check this one out. And if you let me tickle your game in the future, please don't hesitate to get in touch. But check back for daily discussions on game design here and on Game Wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games. Until next time, take care. If you're looking for a book on design, my first title, 20 Essential Games to Study, is out now. It is available where most books are sold, and it comes in paper, hardcover, or digital copies. This is the perfect book for anyone interested in learning about game design, whether you are a student, enthusiast, or just a fan. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed things, be sure to do all the liking and subscribing that the kids are doing these days. Check out our Discord channel link down below where we hang out and chat game design, and come back later tonight for our regular streamings. But that's it, and tune in for more great content here and on Game Wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games.